Hello, and thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast for the first week of September 2020. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks a lot for checking out this episode. Wanted to talk a little bit about the start of September, some of the stuff I've been up to. It's cool. I just finished a roll of film here pretty recently, I think during this last week when I was out traveling around. And I haven't finished a roll of film in a while. I've been shooting mostly on the digital camera that I've got. I'd kind of moved over to Canon equipment back in 2018, and I've been shooting with that for, I guess now almost 2 years is what it's coming up to. And so during that time, I had picked up a Canon film camera body, and I've been using like the Canon lenses that I have for my digital camera on the EOS system over on an older Canon film camera from, I think, the late 90s is what I was able to pick up. So I went over onto like KEH.com. I think this is probably like 9 months ago or so at the beginning of the year. And I had picked up a real inexpensive Canon camera body. It was like $35, something like that, to pick up this camera. Mostly plastic in the body, but it has a bunch of the manual controls that you would expect from sort of a mid-range SLR, sort of like the 5D Mark, or, the 5D line, of whatever one you want to pick. But it's not the full professional build model, but it's definitely not the lower end one. So yeah, it has like kind of the same layout of buttons and stuff on it as you can get with the more modern layout of Canon buttons and stuff. So most of it's really the same, as it kind of translates back from one to the other. But it's cool, pretty simple camera. It's got, I think, like 3 autofocus points on the inside, and that works fine for the kind of simple stuff that I was trying to do. But it's cool. I was a car going by. I'm out here at a wildlife refuge spot, and I was checking out sort of how it's changed. Now that it's September 1st, they've cut all the grass that they grow in these fields out here. That's all been cut, baled, driven off, and then now it's like been tilled up, and there's like dirt and rocks and like all of these big multi-acre fields that kind of stretch on out here. So I've been working with this Canon film camera. This I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's got like pretty simple controls. It's been easy to use. It takes a weird battery. Maybe I talked about that before. That's kind of the tricky thing about some of these late 90s SLR cameras, is that they take these sort of not proprietary, but these almost proprietary disposable batteries. I think this one it's something sort of like 2 sort of fat AA's that are bonded together and then kind of wrapped in this, this little casing unit, and that's supposed to like fit in your camera and then power the camera for, I don't know, a couple rolls or something like that. It works fine, but I always kind of prefer the AA, or something that's a little bit more standard. And I understand that like they needed certain batteries to deliver more power for certain mechanisms, but I think now they've got that pretty well figured out with different series or different sets of series of AA and AAA batteries that they can use. But like the lithium ion AA batteries seem to work fine, and a lot of the stuff that I'd used before, even just the basic Duracell stuff, has always worked fine. These are weird batteries though. They're like real thick, kind of. Like if you took a AA battery and if it was made of Play-Doh, you took a AA, just kind of squished it a centimeter smaller than it was and kind of got it fatter on the sides. That's sort of what it looks like. And like I was saying, bound together as a set of 2 and then put into the camera. And I haven't had to replace it in the year, but really I've only shot through 1 roll. So I think like when I was shooting with the Nikon F4, I think that takes a proprietary battery, but if you have the AA battery pack system that attaches to it, and that's what I had. So that one took like 6 AA batteries that went into the base and into the handle of the camera, and you could get about 10 rolls of film shot with just that one set of batteries. And for me, that would last a really long time. But if you would imagine, 10 rolls of film is a max 36 frames. So if you multiply that out, it's not more than a day's worth of shooting if you're kind of shooting an event or like a wedding or a sporting event or something like that, where you're going to be expected to come back with a lot of frames that you develop and produce and then pick from. But for most of this kind of like landscape work that I'm up to, or like this sort of stuff. It's a lot slower. It's a lot easier in a lot of ways to put together in a little more bit of a steady way. And so yeah, it's 10 rolls, or I'm not going to shoot through 10 rolls in the next 2 years probably, because it's sort of a novelty thing for me to shoot now. But it's cool. I got that film roll finished. I think like I was saying, it was probably from January till near the end of August now. So it's really not like a fast pace. It's probably like 2 or 3 frames a month that I've been shooting. But it's at a number of the different camps and stuff that I've gone to over the last year, or different like trips and stuff that I've gone to, different little spots that I was at. So I hope that there's some cool stuff on there. It's kind of fun when you go back and check and you see like what you got. And if you haven't like duplicated over, or at least if I noticed I haven't really duplicated over this photo sets with a bunch of digital images of the same location and then a bunch of film photos of that same location. If I haven't really like crossed over too much, it's really almost a surprise to me when I develop the roll and I see some of the frames over there. And I think, oh man, I've never seen this photo before. I never got to look at the back of the screen or something to see how this photo would come out, or I didn't get to pull it up on my computer yet. So you kind of look back to this thing that happened, 6 or 7 months ago, and you go, oh man, I remember taking a picture of it, but I had never seen it. And so it's kind of fun getting to capture some of that stuff and getting to go through it and check it out. And yeah, sometimes there's a cool quality to the film photos that come out. But this is the first roll that I put through this camera, so we'll see if it comes out at all. I don't really know how to develop it now that we're in sort of the COVID stuff that we've been going through during 2020. I know like a lot of businesses are now open up again, or like back into operations, but there's also sort of some strange protocols of how different things work. So I was trying to kind of figure that out or see if there was delays or something to it, but I think that I'm able to take it down to a spot, and they can probably develop it in house over a couple days. But well, no, I think it's still send out. Yeah. So I think it kind of depends on like what the what the location in Portland is doing or something, right? I'm not really sure. It's kind of interesting. I think they can do a lot of C41 processing in-house, so maybe it's easier for them than what I'm thinking. But I was looking at a couple different services, so there's always kind of the idea where like, if you're in a bigger market, you probably got a couple more options than I do. But out here in a more rural, smaller market, getting film developed has become quite a bit more difficult. I probably talked about this before. How like everybody's seen the film departments and the photo departments of a lot of stores just kind of go out of business or flip to being just a few digital kiosks that you get prints made of, and that's definitely going to serve 99% of the business. But and department store negatives were never the best things by any means, but a lot of the access that you would have had to send your photos somewhere. That you would see, at least, like through your commercial markets that you go to, have kind of disappeared. And so now, like, yeah, you really just have to send an envelope out yourself to some developing house to have them process the photos, send you back your negatives, and send you back like a digital CD or thumb drive with your photos on. I think now you can select for thumb drives for most everything, but it's kind of I don't know. It's sort of a little strange. It's weird. So I was looking at this one service called, I think, The Dark Room. I think they're out of like an area in Northern California, like Santa Cruz or Monterey or something like that. And it's, I think, probably south of the Bay Area. Maybe I could say that more. Like the South Bay is sort of what it seemed like they were saying from some of their information. But with them, I had like filled out a contact form on their website, and then I had sent off that information, and they had mailed me back like a prepaid mailer that I can put my film roll in, and then they'll take it, put it through a scanning process, give me my negatives back, and then give me the scans through some digital means. And their prices were pretty reasonable, but it seemed like it was somewhere around $20 a roll to get the sort of good stuff. You can go up from there and spend more, or you can go down a little bit and spend a little less. But I wouldn't really recommend that. That'd be like a lower quality scan of the material and stuff. And really, that's sort of what I'm facing with the local stuff too. Like I was saying, I can go to this local camera shop that's still a town away, and I could drop my film off there. Then there's sort of the old-timey, they haven't really renovated anything since the late 90s sort of camera store model that you would have seen before.
But you go in there, you can drop your film off. They'll have it ready in a day, which is great. Otherwise, with this mailing service, I'll probably have to wait a week or 2 weeks to get my film back. But you can wait like a day, 2 days, 3 days or something, go down and pick up the film. But the problem is the CD that they provide you is bad. Or it's just got like, I haven't done that in years too. I used to have like a CD reader. I haven't had like a CD drive in a long time, like a couple of years now at least, that I've like done the CD stuff. Shoot. But the CD quality or like whatever system they're using to scan those images is pretty bad. So you get it's like a 2 megapixel scan. It's really hardly usable for anything but, like something fun to see on a computer screen. But it's not really good enough to print anything more than like a 4x5 or so inch photo. And even still, that's kind of, it's not as rich as it could be if it was scanned properly. So that's one of the benefits that you get with doing a send out, is that you get to kind of work with whatever scan shop is actually looking at and dealing with and caring for your photos. And a lot of these local shops, they probably do a good job also. And if you're in, again, like a larger market or a more developed market, there's going to be, well, I don't know, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 places in most of the West Coast market cities. Like, so, like Seattle, another car coming by. But like Seattle, Vancouver, San Francisco. I mean, Portland's got 2 or 1, maybe. They've got like a little art house style one, but I think a lot of these also, I think they kind of cheat a little bit and send their stuff out to a bigger print house when it gets a little bit more complicated. So I'm not really sure how that goes. You kind of have to look at it and like sort of read what that little spot is up to and how they kind of work with those filled up photos and stuff. But yeah, I think getting the scans is a pretty good way of going about getting your film stuff created. And it's not too bad sending your scan in, getting it developed, put on CD, getting it sent back to you. That's all pretty easy. The C41 processing for a lot of the color film stuff that you can just get is pretty easy to use. Like for any other more complicated stuff, like medium format or large format, if you get to shoot it, or what's the other one, 240, even like some black and white stuff, it's just not standard enough. It's not the C41 processing system they've got, so it has to be sent out to like a different place, and it has to be, I guess, more dutifully processed to get handled. But I think that's because kind of like what we recognize is that those formats have pretty much all but disappeared now. So you just really can't get a hold of a lot of medium format film to shoot through. I mean, you can, of course, but it's just not going to be something that's done enough. So just about all that stuff is sent out to a few hubs that are large enough so they can get enough of that so that it's profitable enough for them to keep developing it. So it's kind of cool. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, I'm going to try and shoot that film off, get my film sent back to me. Hopefully that'll work out pretty good. The other thing I've been trying to do, I've been going through like an old box that I have, and it's got these Minidv tapes in it from probably starting in, I don't know, 2005, 2006, 2007, and then probably no more by around 2008 or 2009. It's interesting how fast those things kind of come and go when you look back at them. But yeah, I think when I was getting into video editing and video processing stuff back in like high school and into college when I was starting, a lot of the video footage that I'd record would be put onto these Minidv tapes they look kind of like small palm-sized VHS tapes that were kind of a split between a few different video mediums that were out there, like Hi8 or VHS-C, I think was like the other camera types that they had out there for a couple of years that sort of were sort of floating around there in the market at the same time. But I have these Minidv tapes, and it's got footage on them still, and I think I have clips of the footage that have been captured off of it, like way back in 2005 whenever I used a capture card to capture that Minidv footage over from the camcorder that took it, and then bring it into Final Cut Studio 3 or whatever it was that might have been around back then, or probably Studio 2, Adobe version 1, Premiere 1, way back. But when you'd capture this AVI file that was huge. It was a humongous file. It was like 2 gigabytes every minute or something. It was terrible. Kind of a weird, uncompressed, and this was just like a standard definition grainy video. It sucked to deal with, but you could just barely kind of process it with the computers of the day, running it FireWire over from the computer or over like across the camcorder through like a little capture card firewire mechanism that it had in it. I got to use like a Canon XL1 back in the day, and that was pretty cool. That was like a pretty fancy camera for the 2004, 2005, 2006 range. And so yeah, it was fun to get to shoot on. Nice big lens on it. Got to do a bunch of sports stuff and a bunch of normal video stuff. But yeah, shooting with that, captured onto a Minidv tape, sent over FireWire to like a Mac G5 computer, I think is what it was for a long time. And then I got one of those later myself to use to do some editing stuff. And I had that until, I don't know, 2012 or so, 2013 when I finally sold it. But yeah, using those computers and stuff to capture these Minidv tapes. So way back, I'd captured the footage, done some edits to it, or worked on whatever project it was associated with it. And then I'd rendered that out. And I probably still have some of those captured files that are edited, rendered out, that are somewhere on my computer video archive that I've got around. I've seen a few of them floating around, but it's not really like the raw footage. So it's cool. I've got these Minidv tapes still to whatever's still on them. I think they've been recorded over a few times, so I didn't do the archivist job of putting everything together as I probably should have, project by project, Minidv tape by Minidv tape to pull out all the raw stuff now and then be able to have it in full. I think I've recorded over a few of those like short class project files that I would have recorded for a bunch of the stuff that I would have worked on through late high school and college. So for whatever, I got a box of tapes. So whatever I do have, I have, but I definitely think that I've lost some stuff in there too. So I'm taking these sets of tapes and I'm trying to take them in and send them to like a conversion shop, sort of like I was saying, you know, with the film stuff, trying to get my film developed. I'm trying to send these Minidv tapes out to a spot where they'll take it, put it in a scanning system, and then capture that video off of it again and give me a digital file with that captured video. And it's kind of cool getting to see some of the stuff again. I've done it with 2 tapes already as like a test, and then I need to drop in probably another 8 or 10 tapes to see if I can get some video off of them. But it's kind of cool. Yeah, some stuff that goes back to, I think, like 2006, and then another thing from probably summer of 2007, maybe somewhere in there. Yeah, probably like the 2007 era. I think it's like this wedding that I recorded. And so I just got this tape back. It was blank. It didn't have a label on it, and it's just somebody's wedding from 2007 that I recorded. So it's like, oh, there you go. Yeah, another event that I recorded some stage event that I recorded, and got tape of it. There you go. Camera set up on a tripod, looking at video from, I think that one's early 2007 as well. You know. So it's kind of interesting to see that stuff. But yeah, I just dropped off another 2 tapes. I'm going to, I think, drop off maybe another 4 or so. And I think they process it. They put it on a thumb drive for you. And then they send you the tape back, and they give you a thumb drive. And it has this little process mark on it. But yeah, you throw the thumb drive into your computer, transfer those files over, and they're like a more reasonably compressed MP4 or something, I think, this time. Or QuickTime file, something like that. And yeah, drag it over to your computer. You got an hour of videotape now converted over to a digital file. So I'm going to try and go through that box that I have and see if I can pull out some cool videos from some stuff from 2005 to 2008, whatever range of stuff I was recording during that time. That'll be kind of fun to see. Really what I'm noticing, though, is that it's just a lot of junk. I really am frustrated now. You know, you kind of think like early on you're like recording some stuff, you're recording something cool, and then it kind of turns out later to be not super useful, or it's just not like a full contained thing, and you think, man, there's a lot of waste in here. If I could have 8 hours of the good stuff, that would have been great, you know. Or if you really think about life and like, oh, what 8 hours would I want to still see now? Or, you know, like what kind of stuff do I wish I had recorded a little bit more of moment to moment? And I'm looking at that a little bit through the videos that I recorded that are like, ugh, what is this project? And also into the photos that I record too, of like, you know, like there's some the process of photo stuff is cool, but there's some nostalgic stuff about photography that really is what grows over the years. You know, like if you're just taking personal photos, it's like the moments and the things and the way that you sort of interacted with the thing that ends up being a lot more fun to see and look back on than just sort of the most plain, sort of flatly composed vista that you can kind of put together on a viewpoint, which is sort of what I end up having a lot of just like, oh yeah, it's like a horizon and then a sky, and I don't really know where it is, and it's sort of flat, and okay, but but then there's a lot of stuff that's pretty cool and sort of personal to get to see, and that's what I think the fun stuff is year over year over year as you get kind of further down the road. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Perseid meteor shower that had come up a while back now in early August. And it was cool getting to see that. Hopefully you guys got to get out and make some observations of some meteors that were going by. I got to do a couple camping trips during that time. I think like at the end of July when Comet Neowise was cruising over. Some of you guys probably got to see that. That was cool. But during like the end of July is when the Perseids start kind of ramping up. And then it's pretty light. It's like it's a chance that you'll see a meteorite or a meteor streak across the sky during the evening sky during those weeks. But it really starts to kick up and peak. I think it's August 10th, 11th, and 12th, sort of in that range. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But really, I think like the 10th, 11th is when it's the nights to see it, and it's cool on nights or on years that the meteor shower is really peaking. I think it can be like up to 50 or almost 60 an hour that you'd be projected to see. I've seen a lot of really cool ones before that it's been pretty fun, or you just go like, whoa, man, I'm just seeing like a lot of shooting stars like throughout the sky. So it was cool this year. I went out for a couple different sightings of it. I think like that during that last podcast that I was talking about was probably one of the better observation nights that I had when I was up on top of that mountain peak out in Eastern Oregon. It was really beautiful. It was a really dark night. You could see really crisply into the Milky Way and into kind of the little filament light structures that sort of make up the edges and boundaries of the Milky Way, and then how dark it gets as it kind of falls off that into the deep space part of the night sky. It's really cool to kind of check out and look at that, and that was a lot of fun getting to go out there, look at the sky, look at the Milky Way, watch the Perseids as it kind of started to kick in a little bit more after midnight. So I stayed up till about 2 a.m. that night, and I probably saw there's probably 15 or nearly 20 pretty good ones. There's a bunch of spitters that were kind of coming through there, but there was really like a lot of good ones that I was able to see kind of later or over that night and the night before. And it's cool when you get to see a few of them. They really kind of stretch off across like a lot of different parts of the sky. I think the idea of the Perseids is that they're sort of originating out of the constellation of Perseus up in the northeast part of the sky, but really you can see them shooting out down into like Sagittarius and Scorpio in the south, or way out past like Arcturus as you get like a little bit further over into the western sky. But yeah, it was cool getting to check out the meteor shower, getting to see some of those bright tubes that are left behind. There's like plasma tubes that are left behind as one of the bigger meteorites kind of cruises through, burns up, and leaves this kind of tube of, I guess, hot air, hot ionized air. And it kind of glows for about a second or so in the sky. You can kind of see it as it then sort of zips and wisps away as it sort of evaporates and cools back down. But it was fun, yeah, being out there, watching a few meteors shoot by. That was fun. And then, yeah, really a great part of August and some of the observations that you get to do is get to check out the meteor shower. I guess there's meteor showers through other parts of the year, too. Like, I think there's supposed to be, well, it's probably a couple more weeks. I think there's like another really good one that comes up in October that we normally miss. There's another good one. I think it's like the Leonid. Maybe it's a Leonid shower that's in November. But for a lot of us in the northern hemisphere, by that time, it's just like clouded over enough, or the way that the weather's working just makes it so that you're not really able to make the kind of observations of the meteor showers you'd like to, I suppose. Even when like I was in Hawaii a while back, and I was trying to make observations of some of those things that I hadn't been able to do during the winter months here in Oregon. And a lot of that stuff I really wasn't able to see in the way that I would have hoped to. Or yeah, just like the observations of it, like we're just, I don't know, kind of kind of difficult to make. So really, like, yeah, the Perseid meteor shower was always one of the coolest ones because it's right there, kind of right in a good season where you get to check it out, and in a good location for a lot of us here in the northern hemisphere and stuff. So it was cool. Had a good time getting to do some of that earlier this year. It's weird too. I'm out here in like this section of this wildlife refuge. I was noticing the leaves and stuff. Like I was talking about the acres of the grass fields have been tilled now, and now it's dirt and rocks that are sort of turned up all over these multi-acre fields and stuff. But out here past that, there's groves of oak trees that kind of stretch out along the creeks as they've grown, and then up onto the hillsides as it kind of extends up into the forest over here more. But I'm noticing in the oak trees, now that it's September 1st, there's like this browning that's starting to occur. And so it's just sort of the last 2 weeks of August is when you really start to first see it. But it's the first twinge that the leaves are starting to change their color and that the seasons are starting to flip. And it's starting to move into more of the fall, autumn season, which is kind of cool. It's interesting to see like how it sort of takes place. When I was driving on the freeway last week and I was sort of moving around a little bit more, I could see a few rows of trees that had been put in. I think they were ash or maybe they were poplar trees that had already started to turn really quite yellow on some of the branches. And it's interesting to see how they sort of start to pop and turn at different times. But it'll be interesting to see how this year sort of plays out. I'm not sure if we're going to get the Indian summer, the extended summer into like late September, October, like we've maybe gotten a few of the last few years, but it'll be kind of neat to check out. I'm excited for it to be September, start to be maybe a little bit of change of the vibe of what's been going on for the last few months. I'm kind of tired of the pandemic and the lockdown stuff and some of the changes that have sort of come with that. So I'm hopeful to kind of maybe see the fall be a shift in some of the way that some of that's working, or kind of see like how it's going to evolve. We're going to maybe see now if like colleges are going back into place, or if schools are going back into place, or I think that'll be kind of maybe it'll set the temperature, the vibe of the type of change we're going to see through the rest of the year and how it's going to go. I'm already seeing, news articles saying, expect a distanced Thanksgiving over Zoom. So it doesn't look like they're putting it on the agenda to be back out of it or celebrating anything soon, which I understand and I guess makes some sense. And it sounds like a lot of states aren't going to be bringing their schools back into place, which I think is really going to affect a lot of parents and their ability to have a work schedule as they're managing their kid in a home environment and stuff. So that's all going to be kind of strange. And now that kind of cascades a problem. But yeah, it looks like it's going to take a little longer to pull out of all the consequences from the pandemic. And it's too bad I wasn't a little faster. I was hoping that it would be kind of in July or August that we'd be able to kick most of it and get back to pretty regular business. But yeah, with a lot of states just not selecting to have their K through 12 classrooms reopen, but for reopening through a distance learning mechanism where you're required to be occupied at home, I think that's going to put a lot of parents in positions that it's just going to make it it's going to make it an additioning it's just going to be a weird couple months. And I think everybody's got a pretty good handle on that. Shoot. I wanted to talk about this trip I did out to the Lake Billy Chinook area. That's a cool area. I like that. I think Lake Billy Chinook is, well, maybe it's the lake. I've seen a couple different names for that lake. It's sort of on the border. One edge of it toward the north is the Warm Springs Indian Reservation. To the south, I think it's, what is that area? No, I don't know what it is. I was trying to think of the national forest system it's part of, but now I can't remember. But there's some national forest out there, and I think it's where like the Crooked River and maybe the White River, Salmon River. No, it's not the Salmon River. I can't remember. It's where like a couple rivers sort of have their convergence point before they think they enter up and head down toward the Deschutes River. And they put a dam in there, and then backed it up, and it's an amazing location. It's really wild to think of what the landscape must have been like there way back. But they put a dam in, but these canyon walls, these like really, really steep walls, go down, like hundreds of feet or something more than like where it's even dammed up to today. So it's a really kind of strange spot. But yeah, I was camping out over there. Really interesting area. It was cool. I didn't camp down by the lake. That was really actually very full, kind of like I talked about a few times in this podcast. The outdoor kind of camping area is sort of the more developed. Pull your truck and trailer in and set up a campsite 15 feet from another camper next to a lake so you can fish kind of spots. Those are all really full this summer. I think maybe like Tuesday, Wednesday, you can find some more open spots, but there's still campers through the week. But then by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, most of those spots are real full, and the small town junctions to get to those spots are even more full, like going out to Lapine before you get out toward the Newberry Crater, Paulina Lake area, or out toward like Crescent Lake or some of those Cascade Lakes that you can cut up to. The Lapine area, some of those little travel center gas stations out there that I've intersected with a couple times on those trips out to Eastern Oregon are slammed by Friday with out-of-state license plates and with in-state license plates from people from Portland or Bend or from wherever going out to do their summer recreation stuff. And it's been way more busy this year than I've seen it for a number of the past years. But yeah, when I was out toward the Lake Billy Chinook area, the state park area where there was like tent camping and RV camping, that was sold out. It said no vacancy, and it was loaded, like no distancing. It seemed really, but it's just tent on tent on tent on tent on truck camper and so on. And it's a cool spot though. It's great if you got a boat, or if you're renting like a houseboat or family boat or something like that to go out on. It's cool. You can drive your trailer down, drop it in the lake, and take off for a whole day and just kind of cruise around acres and acres of lake out there. So really beautiful spot, really cool. Seems like it'd be a good spot to go fishing, or I think people do some kind of light water sports, sort of not jet ski, but like wakeboard, inner tube, ski sort of stuff. I think it's some parts of it, and then I think some other parts are still set up to be a little more slow for the fishing stuff. Another car driving by. What's up, cars? But it was cool out there. It was a nice spot to go camping. What I ended up doing though is I was looking on that map, that off-road OnX map that I've talked about a few times. Shows a lot of the roads, the Forest Service roads that kind of stretch out, and the Forest Service roads that are open too. So a lot of them have like gates on them. So if you're going down a road and you see it on the map, but you're not really sure if it's open to the public, or if it drives through or not, it's cool because you can look on this map and see what is there and where you can go, and you can see what roads are open. But I was able to take this Forest Service road that cuts on the south side of the lake area, and then I think goes up into the mountains. And then it would, if you took it all the way, you'd go over the mountain and then head down to Sisters, Oregon, which is a ways south of there. But you could take that just with back roads, Forest Service back roads. But it was cool. But as you kind of climb the ridge out of the lake area, or out of the draw that was created by the river and the creek that flow into the bigger lake, you climb away. It's like 500 feet or something, it seems, and you get up kind of toward the top of it. And it's interesting how the landscape is out there. It seems like a flat landscape, and then the elevation changes created by the erosion from the water that kind of creates these big canyon draws that then drop down into the lake. And so you can drop in elevation a lot, but really as you climb in elevation and get to the top of that, it really looks like a plateau that flattens out and goes flat across the high desert area out up into like Mount Hood or Mount Jefferson that you can kind of see from that area as you kind of climb up out of the, out of that canyon grassland area. So it was cool. Yeah, the camping spot I got to was a dispersed campsite that was up on top of that ridge outside of all the commotion at the state park area by Billy Chinook. And it was cool, yeah. Pulled up out of there, found, I think, like these 4 campsites that had like fire rings set up, and they were all about probably like spread out by like a quarter mile or so. It wasn't too long of a space, but yeah, it was this old rocky road that kind of curled out onto the precipice of this little point, and then the main road sort of stretched up the spine of the ridge and went up a little further until it crested over and then came back down the other side. But went out toward this point, and you had a cool view of Mount Jefferson that wasn't really too far away. Mount Jefferson looked pretty prominent in the view, and then as you looked up kind of toward the northwest, you could see the point of Mount Hood kind of sticking up over the flat plateau of the land that I talked about. So you couldn't see all of Mount Hood, but you could see kind of the top third of it or so, just kind of sticking up over this flat plateau of landscape. And then below that, below Mount Hood, it dropped into this big canyon and then dropped into the lake Billy Chinook that you could kind of see down to the north and northwest, or north and northeast below me. And so it was cool. It was nice getting up to that spot. I tried to take some pictures up there, tried to get some sunset photos of Mount Jefferson, and tried to do a couple sunrise photos too. That was cool. It was better light in the sunrise, sort of given the side of the mountain that I was on. But yeah, it was nice getting out there and checking out Mount Jefferson. At night, it was cool. I was pretty well, like I'm kind of against like starting fires and stuff right now. So I've been using, I think like I talked about a couple of times, that propane heater that saved me a lot through the season. But this is a good spot to use it. It says everywhere up there. I think after a couple fires that had gotten out into the grassland and then gotten out of control early this decade, I think it was about 10 years ago or so, they had that Warm Springs fire that burned a lot of it. If you pull up a satellite image of the area, you'll see acres and acres and acres, just this whole big region that's been blackened by this fire that had gone through a big section of the Warm Springs reservation and some of the land that kind of stretches out from there. Real shame as that goes, but there's a lot of stuff that says, hey, like we are locking down a lot of the fire use stuff that you have. So any kind of, just anything that seems hot, you don't get to use it is pretty much what it seems to say. I think you can use gas stoves, and I think you can use some propane systems, but really it's like it's pretty against it in most ways. So like I think you can't use charcoal, you can't use a fire pan, which is sort of how you get around these restrictions a lot of the time. You can't use any of that stuff. And I think it really kind of noticing what I saw out there is that the wind is just really kicking up fast, and if anything leaves the fire and is a hot ember, it'll just blow across and catch into a bunch of grass really way faster than you can get to it and way faster than you can deal with it. So I understand like a lot of that. And I'm pretty happy to not have to deal with making a big fire or anything out there right now, especially through the summertime. So not now that it is dropping into September and the fall and moving into like some of the like hunting camp stuff that people are going to be doing. Fire is going to be great. That's always a fun part of the October camping stuff, when you get to light up a big fire, burn through some wood, stay up late, still stay warm. That stuff's really fun. But man, for like midsummer, really dry grassland camping, I'm happy to skip the fire this time. It was cool though that night when I was out there. I was camping out at the truck, and as you looked north, you could see up in Washington somewhere. It must have been way north of the Columbia River. You could see this thunderhead system that had moved over, and you could see these really bright and very distant strikes of lightning that would shoot down somewhere east of Mount Adams that you can kind of make out up there. So I could see Mount Hood from where I was, and then a little over from that, really more of like a due north location, you could see the hump of Mount Adams out there. And then so somewhere out east of Mount Adams, from that landmark, you could see these big purple bolts of lightning that would strike down somewhere up in Washington. But that was really cool to see. Glad I got to be up there, and you couldn't hear it though, no thunder or anything. You just see these distant flashes and stuff every 10, 15 minutes. You'd see these strikes from the storm, and nowhere near me. But yeah, it's a trip how you can still see it from those mountaintops up there. So it was cool. Got a good time hanging out there, out by Mount Jefferson, seeing some stuff, checking out Lake Billy Chinook. That was really fun. Got to drop down to a couple fishing spots that are in that area. That was cool. Nice spot, good summer spot to go. Really nice to get away from the state park campsite area that they had that was super packed out, and go to some areas that were a little bit more dispersed on the sides. Had a good time doing that. So, I don't know. it was cool. But I'll probably wrap up the podcast here for this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast for the first week of September 2020. You guys should check out my website, billynewmanphoto.com. I'm going to try and put up some more written and photo content up there on the blog posts section of the site through September and October. So that'll be kind of cool. I'll have some new photos and stuff that I haven't put up before that I'm going to try and put out. And I got a few other things kind of planned for the fall that I'm excited to get into. But yeah, so a few more podcasts through September. A couple more things like this, talking about some camping. Have a few plans to go out and do some traveling and stuff. So I hope I get to do some posts and make some new photos about that. I was pretty excited about what I got coming up for at least the next 30 days. Then it probably slows down a lot into late October, November. Oh, man, the wintertime. How fun. It's going to be exciting. But yeah, go to billynewmanphoto.com/support. You can check out some more stuff about this podcast or help me out on there. It's always appreciated. But yeah, until next time, thanks a lot for listening to this episode of the Billy Newman Photo Podcast. Bye.